name for town and country. Peter directs the Permaculture Institute of North America, a nonprofit international trade association supporting professional development in regenerative processes, repair the land, build communities, and cool the climate.
Thank you very much, David and Patty. And I've had such an attractive pair of introducers. And I'm glad to be here tonight. Welcome, everyone. Our presentation this evening by Peter Sinclair will address the science and technology behind critical climate and energy issues that now face the world. We appreciate the willingness of Montague Area Public Schools to make the auditorium available to us. Our speaker and the provision of this hall are being sponsored by two local civic organizations, White Lake Area Climate Action Council and Reviving Our American Democracy, R.O.A.D. R.O.A.D. Please feel free to share the costs by dropping a donation at the table in the hall on your way out. My name is Peter Bain, and I'm a member of the R.O.A.D. board. I'm also a pioneer in distributed solar generation with experience on 4 house roofs in 3 states over 25 years, both off-grid and on-grid. We were the second rooftop solar installation in the White Lake area, preceding Macbeth, just up the road here, by about 2.5 years. However, tonight we won't be taking any questions about nor discussing any local solar projects, whether completed or proposed. During Mr. Sinclair's presentation, we invite you to fill out 3x5 cards with your short questions. We welcome also your suggestions for future educational talks on the reverse side. The cards will be collected. At the end of the main talk, we'll leave a few minutes for those wishing to leave, and then begin about 30 minutes of questions and answers. I'll read the collected questions aloud, and our speaker will endeavor to answer. We're lucky tonight to have Peter Sinclair with us. He's a videographer specializing in environment and energy issues based in Midland, Michigan. He's a lifelong environmentalist with comprehensive knowledge of energy technologies. For a decade, Mr. Sinclair has introduced a monthly video series for the Yale University School of Environment and has interviewed hundreds of the world's leading scientists and engineers. He's been a presenter at major universities and science conferences around the U.S. and abroad. In the last decade, Peter has embedded regularly with science teams in critical areas in the U.S., Europe, and in July, he completed his 7th journey to Greenland, the ice sheet. His videos are recognized by experts internationally and established Mr. Sinclair as a frequent presenter on climate, renewable energy, and science communication. In 2017, the National Center for Science Education recognized him as a friend of the planet. Will you please welcome Peter Sinclair?
Okay, can everybody hear me? Yeah, so I've been a videographer specializing in energy and environment, especially over the last 15 years. And what I'm most proud of over that time is that the scientists and engineers that I talk to have over time come to respect the work that I do and the commitment to accuracy that I have enough that they've started to invite me out into some of the places where they work, some of which are fairly extreme. In 2013, I went to the Greenland ice sheet for the first time, and as part of a international science team called the Dark Snow Project, and that has been an enormous learning experience for me. This is a satellite picture from NASA of our camp on the ice sheet in 2014. And I just was up there for the 7th time in July at this glacier front, which ended up as one of my university videos. So the scientists appreciate what I do because I try to listen to what they say, simplify it as much as possible without simplifying it too much, and they tell me that I get it mostly right most of the time. So I appreciate that. And I bring, I hope, that same commitment to accuracy to the work that I do on clean energy. So the title of tonight is Sun 101. This is a presentation that I've given around Michigan and around the Midwest. And it's pretty topical because can you all see that? There you go. As the Wall Street Journal pointed out 3 or 4 years ago now, that solar and wind energy are now the cheapest form of new electricity that you can put on grid. So don't be misled on that particular point. That is clear to everybody who observes the space, is that we are now in the age where clean energy is cheap energy, and it continues to get cheaper. The most widely utilized data set of the cost of energy comes from a company called Lazard, which is an international accounting and consulting firm. And they put out frequent updates on this. This is from 2021. So everything on the far right side is more expensive, and everything towards me is cheaper. And so what you see there is this is an unsubsidized analysis, so all forms of energy get subsidized, but they strip those out here, so it's apples to apples. And currently wind is coming in as the cheapest new electricity that you can buy, followed very closely by 2 flavors of solar. And you can see some of the other more traditional modalities there. Some are kind of fading in terms of their economic competitiveness, and I'll discuss those a little bit. Gas is still somewhat competitive, but that's changing rapidly. Over the last 10 years, particularly with solar, what we've seen is that the price of solar electricity has dropped 90% and continues to drop. As we produce more solar panels, mass production makes things cheaper. High school economics tell you it's going to continue to get cheaper. And of course, the sun, the cost of sunlight never changes. So what I usually, what you'll notice about the presentation is that I don't rely on my own expertise because I'm not really an expert. I'm certainly not an expert at everything. But when I go to a particular question that people often ask, I refer to a panel of experts. And by experts, I usually mean somebody who's been working in the field for 20 or 30 years, typically someone with a PhD. Sometimes they work in industry, sometimes they're at one of our great universities. So you're going to see a panel here discussing the current price of solar energy and why it's so competitive.
Today in the U.S., it is economically competitive to put in solar in almost every single application. Usually it's the lowest cost form of energy. That's why you see many of the major corporations moving to large-scale solar. Yes, it greens their image, but more importantly, it's driving the bottom line.
It's actually significantly cheaper to deploy solar resources right now than even building a new coal-fired power plant.
Right now, solar electricity is cheaper than building a new nuclear plant or coal plant or natural gas plant. And in many instances, it's actually cheaper to build a new solar plant and make electricity than to keep using up a coal plant that's already been paid for. Once you build a solar plant, it's very low cost to operate. And you compare over the life of those two, the cost of electricity and the solar electricity is cheaper.
So we just went through this exercise and looked at what does a natural gas-fired power plant cost us. It roughly works out 2 cents per kilowatt hour just from the fuel, from the natural gas that we have to purchase. And this is at historically low natural gas prices because of fracking. So 2 cents for gas, another 2 cents for the capital to build the whole thing. And that's maybe even a little low, maybe 3, so 2.5. And another 1.5 cents for maintenance. So we're talking 6 cents. Solar you can get for a little less than 5 cents. Now if I look at home, what do I pay per kilowatt hour for electricity? Right now it's 15 cents, 3 times more.
Wind and solar have both plunged in cost so deeply, so unexpectedly quickly, that those are now the cheapest, cleanest sources of power by every measure. You know, when it comes to just what's the cheapest way to put an electron of power on the grid, wind and solar win hands down, at least if you're, in terms of anything new that you're building. If it comes to building anything from scratch, those are your cheapest power sources.
Solar actually produces the lowest cost power in part because the marginal cost is so tiny. Once you put the capital onto the plant, your operating costs are basically nothing, and it's producing energy all the time the sun shines. Your marginal costs are really low, which is why it can crush any kind of on-top plant where you have some sort of a continuous cost. Like if you burn natural gas, you have to pay for that natural gas. The cost of that natural gas is variable. Right now it's pretty low. Hopefully it stays that way, but there's no guarantee.
So over time, it will have a downward pressure on rates.
Everything else is getting more expensive. Our solar energy will get cheaper and cheaper in comparison through the years.
So as several of those speakers mentioned, at the time that I was interviewing them, gas, for instance, was at historically low rates. That is no longer the case. The Wall Street Journal again recently reported that electric bills have been soaring in various parts of the country, in large part because of the price of natural gas going up, and that's going up because of the global supply shortage related to the war in Ukraine. Because Russia, which is a huge supplier of natural gas, especially to Europe and Asia, has decided to use that